they decided to put doctors, surgeons out of intensive care units and EDs and fast track, and they decided to put them on board with the ambulance for two reasons. First of all, ambulance officers wanted that further in-depth training from a surgeon or a really quite qualified operating doctor.
Please dress it like this because we're going to end up with that.
Yeah, so the overall outcome, and that's why I go and look at those final finishing bits and pieces that get done in a hospital under a completely controlled environment. But you get one of those doctors and stick them in a car with a person hanging upside down out of a car in Springbrook. Mate, it's interesting to see how people like that act, and it's good for the doctors to be able to do that as a first responder. And in some cases, you cannot get equipment into those areas. You have to really work improvise, adapt, overcome, and ambos are learning the trade of like the next skill up, and the doctors are learning the skill of a first responder or an ambulance officer. But I'll even break first aiders down to what happens in that first 10 minutes. Quite often an ambulance won't turn up for 8, 10, 12, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes in an arrest. So it really is that situation that happens without any equipment for a first responder. Then the equipment turns up. And the big picture here, say, for example, with a heart attack, is to get someone to a cath lab to get a clot sucked out of their artery in their heart or their coronary artery so the heart can start receiving vital oxygen again through blood. But that's the ultimate outcome. That's where they have to end up. What happens along the way is every step in that chain is so critical.
Can I ask you something that's been burning on me? Going back to the kid that was on my driveway, I wish I knew his name. His mates rang me 2 months after he was gone and just said he survived, but he's in a bad way.
Okay.
And I didn't get their number. Damn it.
Yep.
But you know how someone has an accident, don't move their neck.
Yep.
Well, we were the third people to get to this kid. He was already in a ditch. When I say upside down, it's a really steep hill.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like brain to me. I don't know anything, but there was a rising amount of pink stuff coming directly out of his ear hole.
Yeah.
And his feet were probably a foot and a half taller. That's how steep this hill is than his head. But because the thing was don't move his head because he may have a neck injury.
Yeah.
He started vomit. Like I had him in my lap,
and
he was vomiting blood, and my gut was saying he needs to be upside down. All this blood and this. He's definitely got a massive head injury. It can't be comfortable, and I just wished that I could have turned him around somehow, so at least it'd be more natural. Because it would have been a good 20 minutes by the time anyone got there.
And that's a classic.
I suppose you can't even answer that question because you would have assessed that on site, but
I think that's one of the myths. You can't move someone that's got a bad neck. I completely disagree with that. You absolutely would need to move that person in that situation, and there's two significant reasons to move that person. Number one is if they're on their back and they're vomiting and they're unresponsive or unable to respond, then
100%.
They can choke on the vomit.
Yep.
And number two, when someone has a head injury and you have that cerebral sac that pertains the brain in it, and they have bleeding inside that cerebral sac, then what can happen is coning, where the brain actually pushes down between the shoulder blades. So anyone with a head injury, generally speaking, if they're unconscious, they go into recovery position. Suspected spinal injuries we try and maintain, but we still put a log roll on and put them into recovery position, so on their side, so the vomit goes on the ground. But ideally, if you can get their head up, then it's face is red, raise the head, face is pale, raise the tail. They're the two basic concepts behind first aid. So back in the day, and I'm talking thousands of years ago when the Aztecs used to fight each other and hit each other in the head to try and kill each other, they'd try and hit each other in the head so the brain would swell and push down between the shoulder blades, brain dead all over, not ever
between
coming
the
back.
Shoulder blades?
Yeah, brain pushes down your spinal column and actually ends up between your shoulder blades. And
like a lot of it, or just some of it gets
some of it goes down, but that's the area that controls breathing, and you're brain dead and not going to survive that. And vomiting is also a sign of brain bleeding. So if someone is vomiting after head injury,
pink blood, horrible. That's
a very bad sign.
Yeah.
So we train people to look for that, but But ideally, stabilising head and neck and getting them into a position of that's going to look after their brain effectively. It's very simple principles, and just keeping that head, elevated a little bit, or even putting them on a side angle. Yeah. I can recall a situation where an emergency call came in, and I won't mention any names, but this person had jumped from a building in surface. And the emergency call that came in for this particular situation, I had an emergency operator that I'd sort of had a good chat with about this situation. And she said that basically the call had come in, this guy had jumped off the balcony, he'd hit his head on the way down, he'd landed in the pool, similar sort of thing, brain injury, blood. And the call went something like this: help, I've got a friend here, He's hurt his neck. He's in a pretty bad way. I think he might have even opened his head up. Okay, whereabouts are you? We're in Surfers Paradise at this building. Okay, are you safe where you are? Yes, I am. What about your friend? Is he safe? No, he's in the bottom of the pool. He's in the bottom of the pool? Yeah, that's right. I've been told I can't move someone that's got an injured head. Well, get him out of the friggin' pool because he's going to die there anyway. Yes. So that's exactly how I think about people with head injuries. If they're in a shitty position where they are, fix it. Yeah. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Don't try and grab their head and move it around too much, but think about the basic principles. They've got to be able to breathe. They can't breathe through vomit. Like motorbike helmets. Everyone says, don't ever take a motorbike helmet off. What a load of crap. Right. If that helmet's full of blood and vomit, they can't breathe, they're dying anyway. Right. It's like the guy on the bottom of the pool. Get that helmet off, get the airway open, get them on their side. Yep. And even if that's basics.
I had gut instincts, just like, this can't be right. I couldn't be comfortable, and sure enough, the kid was exploding vomit. Yep. That was horrible.
And that's one of those myths that you get.
But we were, in this kid's defence, or even everyone that was theirs defence, we were out of mobile range, so it was like one message sent from a house phone. Yep. How's he like? Don't move his head, blah, blah, blah. Hang up. And so there was no mobile service here. Yep. So that was like there was only a few directions from these poor people at the end of the phone who had no idea what it looked like as well. So, And
I think that's changed emergency services and first responders in a big way because, you have phone service in most places these days. So if you can
get Currumbin Valley.
Oh, there
Cha-ching. Thank you, Optus.
112. You heard of 112?
Go, what?
Yeah, so basically 000, if you use a mobile phone and call 000 for an ambulance, police or fire, then 000 uses your own network provider. If you use 112, it uses any network provider on the planet to get emergency services. So
beautiful.
112 is one of those things we teach in a course. Yeah, obviously today, networks coverage is improving all the time. And, your Optus and Virgin and Telstra and all that, they're all sort of interlinking. But generally, they will pay for a certain satellite to be roving around and get the service out of that. So the bigger guns or the bigger players, they get the most coverage because they pay for the most satellites. So ultimately, 112 is the number to use.
That's magic.
Yeah.
It's amazing that's not being advertised.
Well, we teach it in every first aid course we do.
That's how you're good. Yeah,
unreal. Yeah, that's how we we should have shown that. Even apps. Oh, geez, there's some good apps out there in emergency as well. There's one called Emergency Plus that's got the symbol plus, and if you bring that app up on your phone, I'll show you
right
as I'm
now.
talking, mate. I'll bring it up. So I'm in the office here. If I bring Emergency Plus up, what this will do, it'll GPS track my location. It tells me where I am on the planet. I can make the call from this app, and I can tell the ambulance exactly where I am on the planet.
Wow, look at that.
Done.
Emergency Plus.
Yep. Yeah,
and you did that in 2 seconds.
Oh, it's instant. Yeah, so I've just downloaded that app.
Oh, my God. So if anyone's got a mum or dad,
you've instantly got someone telling you what to do. You know where you are. And here's the thing.
Even for them, how many mums and dads are falling down steps right now?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And just knowing where you are, I think, obviously giving you the information, but if the emergency services don't know where you are, they cannot send anyone, and it's illegal for them to track you.
Is that it? There it is.
That's
there,
the one. Yeah.
Emergency Plus. Yep. Everyone get this on their phone right now.
Brilliant app. Yep. In the UK, there's
it's an Australian government thing too.
Yep. There's an app called Pulse Point, and it does the same thing, but it does one additional thing, which I'm trying to push with the mayor at the moment.
which he'd be right behind, I'm sure, at this point.
What I'm trying to do is, because defibrillators are so important in that first 10 minutes to fire the heart again, because once the heart faults, it can't fire again. It just continues to die, even with good CPR. Yeah, defib shocks the heart back into a normal rhythm from a faulting rhythm. Right. If that doesn't happen in the first 10 minutes, then you generally will lose the person, although that time frame can extend, but that's a world standard is 10 minutes for that defib. Then ideally what we're looking to do with our organisation on the Gold Coast is to get a defib within 3 minutes of anyone on the Gold Coast in a public area. So putting defibs in a metal box with a PIN code and a phone next to it, so you can ring, you can basically get the code, grab the defib out, get it onto the patient while CPR is being administered, and survivability goes from 3% to 80% from a heart attack or an arrest.
Far out.
In that
so
scenario.
They can be on a... are there still public phones about? Oh, so for instance...
No, mate, there's not a lot of public phones.
Are there any public phones?
I saw one the other day, but I was down near Grafton.
Isn't that mad?
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
I think there are some, but anyway... Just key
well, there's
points.
Probably Telstra boxes everywhere.
But this
could
app,
be on the side of those.
This app will tell you where the closest defibrillator is. And there already is that in the UK. It tells you where the closest defib is. We're trying to get that happening at the moment on the Gold Coast to lead the way for Australia. And, maybe this situation that happened to the mayor recently is something that we can get happening, and Commonwealth Games coming up as well. We need a bit of a legacy here on the coast, I think. So getting that happening, I think, is something that will be in the sights.
You made me think. You don't even have to answer this, but obviously, and I don't even like thinking this way. So it's weird that I'm even asking this question. But the Commonwealth Games is coming, big event, terrorist stuff. It makes me think that the council, the mayor's office called you because they need to know what we need to do if something bad happens en masse, or whatever en masse means, in certain areas and that kind of thing.
Oh, I think strategically, if they weren't thinking about something like that, they would be doing an injustice. So we've had a few organisations contact us in the last couple of months wanting training specifically around terrorism attacks and particularly aiming towards, getting run down by cars and mass trauma scenarios with stabbing. So we've been doing a lot of workshops around that for security agencies on the coast. I think ultimately that's probably what prompted, the mayor and...
You're silly not to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think if you... And guys, honestly, as a life skill, we go into schools on the coast now and as a Year 12er, they've implemented that they cannot leave without basic first aid training in Year 12 or CPR training. So a lot of schools have said, listen, we'll just get the teachers to teach them. And it's a bit of a mistake. There's been some big mistakes made in that area. But getting an organisation such as ourselves to come in and do a larger group of 70 or 80 kids, at a workshop price, to give them the realistic facts on what's going to happen in an arrest and what to do, it's been proven to work. So it's and I think that's a good thing. And in some countries in Europe, you can't get a driver's license without having first aid and CPR training.
Wow,
it's just a good life skill, to be able to use that when it counts. Oh, gee, I tell you, it just takes away that feeling of helplessness.
You made me think of. Sorry to do this to you. When I've got my phone. I hope you've seen this. Made me think of when I used to drive around the country all the time, and then every now and then I'd get in a truck, and I'd be the passenger in the truck, but I used to drive a little truck as well. Mm-hmm. And you end up, having the most knowledge about everything is the greatest thing, right?
Mm.
So if you drive a car your entire life and you've never been in the passenger seat of a truck to understand what trucks do, just so the importance of learning CPR and hang on, but that wasn't what I was really getting into. Have you seen this?
What have
sketch?
You got for me here? Give us a look.
I hope you haven't. Right, I'm going to play it, even though it's for the audio guys.
Yep,
I'm ready.
Oh,
have you seen this?
ABC, okay? And that stands for airway, breathing, and circulation.
Have you seen
Okay,
this?
you know what? That could be a little confusing because in sales,
Look-
ABC
looking at The
means
Office.
always be closing.
It's
This
Steve
is a farce.
Carell.
I should be teaching this course.
Shut it. Shut it.
We found ourselves on the less prepared side of things when Stanley had when his heart went berserk.